Hey everybody, today is Tuesday, April 21st, and I hope you have your TAN books with you because we're going to go over the review activities for lesson 10, okay? Hope you all had those done. The first activity was concerning homonyms, and you're supposed to choose the correct word in the parentheses to complete the sentence. There will be a children's concert this evening. That should be T-H-E-R-E. And next one, we will be going to the pottery class soon. That should be T-O, because T-O-O means also, right? Next, I will write to my friend in Ireland. The correct form of write is W-R-I-G-H-T. D, the bee kept buzzing around her head, and that would be B-E-E. E, the inn was already full because of the holiday. Okay, and that's I-N-N. That's like a hotel or motel, something like that. Alright, let's go to number 2, narrator, point of view, and mood. In the following paragraph, who is the narrator? Okay, this is a paragraph about, let's just read it. I surveyed all the land below me with careful and calculated eye, looking for the slightest possible movement. The rustle of a leaf, a shift of a blade of grass was all that was necessary to lead me to my prey. Suddenly it happened. I detected movement. Quick as a flash, I swooped from my treetop vantage point and clutched a small mouse in my talons. This reminds me of the poem we read about the eagle. All right, so who is the narrator in this paragraph? Right, it's a hawk or an eagle, okay, some sort of bird of prey. And from what point of view? Is it first person or third person? It's first person because it's the actual character talking about his experiences, yep. And what kind of mood was created? It's kind of tense and expectant, okay, or anticipating. He's waiting for his prey to be available so he can swoop down and snatch it. Okay, commas. A, we're going to insert commas where they need to go. I'm just going to read you the sentence and tell you where the commas should go as I go. On our summer vacation, we will visit the seashore, climb a mountain, and ride a horse. So we should have a comma after seashore, after mountain, and that's it. B, I looked inside, comma, reached down, comma, and picked up the rabbit. C, for the party I need to buy balloons, comma, cake, decorations, comma, and gifts. D, the bee buzzed, comma, flipped, comma, and dove around the flowers. E, my grandparents have visited England, France, and Spain. And F, oh, you should have a comma after England and after France. And F, bring your lunch, comma, a thermos, comma, and a blanket. Okay, so all those are lists of things, and you need to have commas between them. And you make sure you have a comma before the word and in the list. Okay, and the last thing on the review activities was the plot. What are the 5 elements of a good plot? And we got it here on the board. You can see, if you remember from our plot diagrams, you have the opening or the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action or the denouement, and the conclusion. Okay, and we'll talk about the plot of Horse and His Boy in May after we finish the story. Okay, now I want to go over the new passage with you. We're going to move on to lesson 11. So flip over in your TAN book to lesson 11. And this new passage is also from the Wheel in the School, where the same passage that we had in our last lesson was from. Okay? And I'm going to read you the passage out of the book. Okay? And I'm just to give you some context, there are children in a school, and there's the teacher, and he's a man, and they're talking about storks. One of the children wrote a story about storks, and so the teacher asks them, what do you think would happen if we all started thinking about storks? And one of the children raises his hand and says, but I'm afraid I can't think much about storks when I don't know much about storks. I'd be through in a minute. Okay, now this is where our passage in our book comes in. So if you're not there, turn to lesson 11 and turn to the passage there. And I'm going to read from the book, but it's the same in your book if you want to follow along. All right. Everybody laughed, but the teacher's eyes weren't pleased. True, true, he said. That's right, Ilka. We can't think much when we don't know much. But we can wonder. From now on until tomorrow morning, when you come to school again, will you do that? Will you wonder why and wonder why? Will you wonder why storks don't come to shore and build their nests on the roofs the way they do in the villages around? For sometimes when we wonder, we can make things begin to happen. All right, so he's trying to encourage them to think about it, and it develops the whole plot of the book. All right, so what I want you to look at in the passage is I want you to look for some contractions. Okay, there's 4 contractions in the beginning of this paragraph. I'm going to read it again and see if you can notice them as I'm reading. Everybody laughed, but the teacher's eyes weren't pleased. There's the first one. Weren't. W-E-R-N''T. Weren't is a contraction of 2 words, were and not. And the apostrophe goes between the N and the T. True, true, he said. That's right, Ilka. And that's is the next one. T-H-A-T''S. Okay, that's a contraction between the word that and is. And the apostrophe goes between the T and the S. We can't think much when we don't know much. Okay, there's 2 in that sentence. Can't, C-A-N''T, can and not. And don't, D-O-N''T, which is do and not. Okay? I think that's it, yes. So those are the contractions in the passage. Just remember that we have to use an apostrophe to show the contraction. Okay. Now we're going to turn to The Horse and His Boy. You can put your blue books or tan books away. And we're going to talk about chapters 8 and chapters 9. And again, I'm using my whole book here, but I want to show you something that I'm going to use today. And these are called arrow post-it notes. I think that's what they're called. But they're little pointy post-it notes that you can put on and off in your books. And they make it really nice if you're trying to find something, a quote or a certain word or something that you want to remember and come back to, but you don't want to mark up your book. Post-it notes. Arrow flags, that's what they're called. Okay, first let's do the vocabulary words for lesson 8. I have them written up here. First one is judicious, and judicious means showing good judgment or wise. It's an adjective, okay? It describes somebody. Next is maxim. Maxim is a short statement of truth, like actions speak louder than words. That's a maxim. And maxim is a noun because it's a thing. Maleficence is committing the committing of a harmful or evil act. Okay? And maleficence is also a noun. It's a thing. It's a committing when someone does something. It's something someone does. All right, number 4 is irrefutable. Notice the prefix ir means not. Refute means to deny or to disprove. So this word means it's impossible to deny or disprove. And this is an adjective describing a thing. That's irrefutable. That means it's a fact. Number 5 is impetuosity. And impetuosity means impulsiveness, rashness, or hastiness. Doing something without thinking, rushing to do something before considering, before being judicious. Okay, so now let's talk about our questions. Question number 1 said, why did the Tisroc think that attacking Narnia was, what did he call it, a dark and doubtful enterprise? Well, I have a note here on this page that I wanted to read to you the chapter where the answer is to that question. He says, they're talking about Narnia and how Narnia used to be a land that was always winter and always filled with ice and snow, and it was ruled by the queen of, what was it called? He called her an evil enchantress. But that things had changed, and that this evil enchantress, evil queen, had died, and now Narnia was, they called it wholesome and fruitful and delicious. And so the Tisroc, remember he's like the high king, he says, I will never believe that so great an alteration and the killing of the old enchantress were effected without the aid of strong magic. And such things are to be expected in that land, which is chiefly inhabited by demons in the shape of beasts that talk like men. Now we've seen those, the talking horses, right? Bree and Win. And also we saw when Shasta met the bird, that when he was in the room with the fawn, Mr. Tumnus. So we've been introduced to some of these talking beasts, okay? And monsters that are half man and half beast, like the fawn, like Mr. Tumnus. It is commonly reported that the High King of Narnia, whom may the gods utterly reject, that's in parentheses, is supported by a demon of hideous aspect and irresistible maleficence, that's one of your vocabulary words, who appears in the shape of a lion. Keep seeing these lions. Therefore, attacking Narnia is a dark and doubtful enterprise. Okay? He thinks that it's not a good idea to go against Narnia because there's something more at work there, and especially this lion he's not sure about. Okay? So that's the answer to number 1. Number 2. How many sons did the Tisroc have? Excuse me, besides Rabadash. Okay? Rabadash was the son that came and said, I want to go to attack Narnia. I want to get Queen Susan back from Narnia to marry her. Well, the Tisroc had 18 other sons. Yeah, so he had a lot of sons, and so maybe that's why he wasn't so worried about Rabadash going to attack Narnia. I don't know. Okay, and question number 3. Why were Aravis and Lazareline able to breathe fully at the end of the chapter? If you remember, during that chapter, they were hiding behind the couch because they were trying to, Lazareline was trying to help Aravis escape. But the Tisroc and Ahashta and Rabadash came and went into the very room where they were hiding. And so they had to stay out of sight while they were having their conversation, which was convenient because they learned some things too. But the reason they were able to breathe fully at the end of the chapter was because the Tisroc and Rabadash and Ahashta finally left, and they could relax and breathe again. Okay. So that is chapter 8, and now let's move on to chapter 9. So the vocabulary for chapter 9 is scullion, number 1. And a scullion is a noun, it's a kitchen servant, someone who works maybe cleaning and doing menial tasks in the kitchen. Number 2 is victualled. Okay, it talked about the horses needing to be victualled, or being victualed, but it's well supplied or fed. Victuals are food. So if they are victualed, they are fed. And number 3 is a recess. And this is not, like I said, the half an hour that you go outside after your school, after a certain amount of subjects or classes in school. But this form of recess it's a noun also, but it refers to a small hollow space inside a place where you might hide something. Okay? All right, so let's go over the questions for chapter 9. Okay, so Erebus, she's trying to escape still, and it says she stepped into a punt. And I asked you to decide from context what is a punt. And so I also marked a passage in here that I'm going to read about that. Okay, if you didn't know what a punt was, she tore herself. You have to keep in mind that they are trying to escape, and they're in a city that is in the middle of a river, right? And so it's surrounded by water. It's a little island. So that's your first clue. She tore herself away from her friends' affectionate embraces and stepped into a punt. She cast off, and in a moment later was out in midstream with a huge, real moon overhead. Okay, so she stepped into a punt, cast off, and was out in the middle of the stream. So obviously it has to be some kind of a boat, right? So it's actually a long, low boat, flat-bottomed boat. Okay, that's what a punt is. Okay, now the next question is about onomatopoeia. And did you like the video that I put up about that? It's just sounds, written sounds to indicate a certain sound. It might not be a normal word, but it's the sound that you hear. So the sound that the horse's hooves made, the author said, it's not property, 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 prop, like you think of a horse's hooves on pavement or a road, but it was thubbity, 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 thub, like on the sand. It was more muddled. Okay, so that's his use of onomatopoeia, and he'll use it again, so keep a lookout for that. All right, and lastly, which horse suggests that they press on? They're all tired, and they stop to take a break, and one of them says, I can't go on. The other one says, we need to keep going. I know we're tired, but we need to press on. And that was Hwin. Bree wanted to stop and eat and get a drink, and they ended up doing that, but Bree's advice was to press on because time was important if they were to beat Rapidash. Okay, y'all understand what's happening here. Rapidash is going to attack Narnia to try to get Queen Susan back, and they're trying to beat him before he gets there and to warn the king. Well, they're going to warn the king of Archenland first, because Archenland is the country that's right above Narnia, right above Calormen, and then Narnia comes next. So Rapidash is first going to take Archenland, and then he's going to go to Narnia after that. So they're going to trying to warn King Lune, who is the king of Archenland. All right, so that does it for Horse and His Boy. And now the only thing we have left to do is your spelling test. So if you want to study for your spelling test before we do this, you can do that. You can pause the video. I'm going to say your spelling words for you. So you can take your test now if you want. Just do it like we normally do, a double space, make a line between each word. If you don't want to take your spelling test with me dictating the words, and you can ask a parent or someone to dictate them to you. Okay, so you can do it either way. So if you want to pause and get a sheet of paper and a pencil, and then we'll start the spelling test, okay? All right, number 1, the word is climbed. They climbed up the apple tree to get a better view. Climbed. Number 2, possible. It is very possible for you to earn an A on this test. It is. Possible. Number 3, strength. His strength did not fail him as he carried his injured friend to safety. Strength. Number 4, within. Within the recess, he found a secret note. Recess. Number 5, myself. I completed the entire project by myself. Number 6, against. There is currently a ban against gathering in groups of more than 10 people. That's why we're not in class. Against. Number 7, height. The mountain peak rose to an immense height. Height. Number 8, bright. The reflection was as bright as sunlight. Bright. Number 9, might. Wanda was worried that she might be late for dinner. Did you catch that alliteration there? Wanda was worried. But the word is might. Might. And the last word is twilight. Sitting on the front porch in the twilight, they enjoyed the lovely spring evening. Twilight. Okay, so those are your 10 spelling words. You can have a parent check them, or you can just take the picture of them and send them to me. That would be fine. Okay. All right, just to go over with you your homework, you're going to read Chapter 10 in The Horse and His Boy and answer the vocabulary questions, define the vocabulary words, and answer the comprehension questions. Then I want you to complete lesson 11, day 1, exercises B and C. Okay, this is practicing a little bit with contractions in the passage that we read. And the last thing I want you to do is choose 4 out of these 8 vocabulary words that we talked about today that you have defined. And I want you to write a complete sentence with each of the 4 words that you choose. So pick 4, and then you're going to be writing a sentence with each of them. Make sure you use good punctuation, capitalization, and spelling. Okay, that's it for now. And I look forward to talking with you again, maybe on Thursday. Bye.